Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. I am joined by our local CBP leadership team, Chief Patrol Agent Scott Good, Director of Field Operations Hector Mancha, Air Marine Operations Branch Director Efrain Gonzalez, and I also have the Deputy Chief of the Border Patrol, David B. Miller, with me as well. We just met with many of our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners here in El Paso. We talked about what we're doing to combat transnational criminal organizations operating along the southwest border and how we can do even more to bring the fight against them. These ruthless criminal organizations peddle chaos and profit from human suffering. They traffic illicit drugs into our country that make their way into our communities. They exploit vulnerable migrants, leaving them for dead in the unforgiving desert, and they cause cross-border violence that puts border communities and our law enforcement personnel at risk. They are sophisticated, innovative, relentless, but so are the men and women of Customs and Border Protection. Our ability to adapt and respond is making an impact in this fight. Through our multi-layered enforcement approach, we are exerting significant pressure against TCO operations in the West, specifically in California and Arizona. While that is good for our enforcement efforts, it could mean these organizations will shift their tactics, techniques, and procedures, pushing their operations further east in order to stay primed for profit. So we are continually enhancing how and where we combat these issues. A few months ago, I announced the next phase of our fight against TCOs and fentanyl, Operation Plaza Spike, going after the plaza bosses. These are cartels' middle management, whose organizations are responsible for everything that is smuggled across our southwest border. We are expanding Operation Plaza Spike to the El Paso and Juarez region. We know what the TCOs operating south of the border here in El Paso are doing. By targeting these plaza bosses and those operating for them, through our enforcement action, we can and we will degrade their operations. Here's how it works. We focus on gathering actionable intelligence on these networks. We work with our partners to disrupt and degrade the operations of the TCOs, and we will deliver consequences. CBP is also focusing on the illegal exportations of weapons from the U.S. to the cartels in Mexico, severely hampering their ability to arm their operations. We're working closely with our federal, state, local partners along the southwest border, and now specifically in El Paso. We are using all of our collective intelligence and operational capabilities to focus pressure and disruption operations on these TCOs. These partnerships are critical in all of our enforcement efforts. CBP is proud to lead the federal government's effort in the fight against fentanyl. We bring our unique position and authorities and are even more impactful when we're working with our federal, state, and local partners. Today, I am also announcing a new counter-fentanyl surge operation across the southwest border. From here in El Paso all the way to San Diego, Apollo X will surge resources from the full force of Customs and Border Protection. CBP jump teams across the southwest border will go towards the threats. We'll use that actionable intelligence to not only find and seize fentanyl, but also uncover supply chains so we can determine where it's coming from and where it's headed. That's the information we need to get into the hands of our state and local partners so we can work together to find and stop these ruthless networks. Our partners in Mexico are making an impact too. I would like to congratulate the government of Mexico on some recent successes in their efforts to combat these criminal organizations. including recent arrests of border plaza level leaders over the past several months. And just this week, a notorious player in the Sonora Plaza in Arizona was extradited to the United States to face justice for his role in smuggling fentanyl through the Lukeville port of entry in Arizona. This is progress. All of these efforts leverage CBP's position on the front line against fentanyl and are just the latest in our efforts to disrupt criminal supply networks and keep fentanyl out of our nation's communities. Thanks to the men and women of CBP, we will have a tremendous impact on the cartel's ability to smuggle this dangerous drug across our borders. So let me be clear. If you are making or moving fentanyl across our borders, if you are responsible for smuggling and exploiting people, and if you are profiting from the suffering of others, we know who you are, and we are bringing the full force of the federal government to shut you down. We are determined, we are capable, and we are relentless in this mission. It's a fight we take personally, and it's a fight we will not lose. Thank you. Now I want to give you an opportunity to hear from the leaders who are leading these efforts in keeping our community safe here in El Paso. I would now like to turn it over to Chief Scott Good. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Good. I'm the Chief Patrol Agent of the El Paso Sector Border Patrol. Thank you for joining us today. As the scourge of fentanyl continues to rise as one of the greatest threats in our communities across America, I'm honored to share that the U.S. Border Patrol El Paso Sector, along with our partners, is fulfilling our duty in combating this threat with strategic initiatives to make our border community and our nation safer. As protectors of our nation's borders, CBP and the United States Border Patrol remains at the forefront of this crisis. The American people rely on us to stop this dangerous substance from crossing into the United States and impacting our homes and our communities. Fentanyl is a deadly narcotic that is tearing families apart. To fight this, we are part of Operation Apollo and Operation Plaza Strike. These initiatives gather intelligence on how criminal networks smuggle fentanyl across our borders. We've had success with similar efforts in the past. Last year, the Border Patrol and OFO and our international partners announced a new list of 10 people for our Se Busca Información campaign. This campaign used a hotline for public safety, a public call number that had information locating people on that list. In less than a year, thanks to the information provided by the people in our community, we were able to locate and identify 5 of the 10 people on the Se Busca list. In addition to the 5 on that list, over 60 investigations were started from additional information from that hotline, to include 2 arrests for felony fugitive warrants. Following this success, we're launching the El Paso Fentanyl tip line. If you have information regarding fentanyl smuggling, please call 1-800-635-2509. Again, that number is 1-800-635-2509. Your call can help keep the streets safe. The El Paso sector has also launched a GEAR program. GEAR stands for Guiding Education and Academic Resilience. This program utilizes formal presentations to educate and raise awareness of a multitude of topics, one of which specifically educates middle and high school age students on the dangers of fentanyl and THC. Through presentations and outreach, we are determined to educate our youth about the dangers of drug use and the manipulative tactics that drug trafficking organizations use when recruiting teens as load drivers and for smuggling activities. More simply put, as far as fentanyl production and use is concerned, don't make it and don't take it. Lastly, I'd like to thank all of my partners that you see standing here today. This team standing here is dedicated to the common goal of creating a safer border community, now and for the future. Thank you. God bless you all, and honor first.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Commissioner Miller, for the opportunity to speak today. And thank you to our federal and state local partners who have joined us to highlight our mutual effort to combat fentanyl epidemic currently plaguing our country. Please allow me to briefly introduce myself. I am Hector Mancha. I'm the Director of Field Operations for the Paso Field Office. I lead the men and women at ports of entry in New Mexico and in West Texas who inspect and process thousands of travelers and millions of dollars worth of merchandise crossing our border on a daily basis. Last year alone, our ports processed over $138 billion worth of trade, importations and exportations combined, to include over 14 million vehicles and nearly 6 million pedestrians. CBP has made and will continue to make unprecedented investments in technology at our borders and deploy new non-intrusive inspection technologies at our ports of entry. As part of Securing America's Ports Act, approximately $160 million has been allocated for 39 additional non-intrusive scanning units in the passenger vehicle, commercial truck, and railroad environments. The deployment of these new scanning systems is vital to maximize our interdiction efforts to stop the spread of fentanyl or other hard narcotics. We're leveraging enhanced intelligence analysis and information sharing with our federal, state, local, and foreign partners, all of which are showing results. CBP's counter-fentanyl Operation Apollo X will undoubtedly further enhance all our ongoing port enforcement efforts towards detecting, deterring, and degrading any transnational criminal organizations' attempts of introducing fentanyl or any of the drugs coming into the United States. The ports of entry also provide tactical training such as canine narcotic detection and vehicle compartment training to our law enforcement partners. And with every seizure made, we're targeting supply chains and the networks behind them. In the fight to curb border violence and make our communities safer, the ports have seized over 30,000 rounds of ammunition this year, more than doubling the total amount from last year. Just in the last few days, with increased enforcement operations, we have intercepted nearly 200 pounds of hard narcotics. This includes over 40 pounds of fentanyl. The high rate of fentanyl smuggling in the El Paso area began in 2001, with a 1,000% increase from the previous year before, and with the rate of fentanyl seizures meeting or exceeding each year since. This year so far, the ports of entry have seized over 3,000 pounds of methamphetamine. This amount has already surpassed the total for all of last year. As a parent and grandparent, it is painful for me to see the number of senseless deaths by overdose across our country. However, I am energized by the collaboration with our federal, state, and local partners here today, because the fight to keep dangerous drugs out of our communities goes beyond our ports of entry. Along with the men and women of CBP, we will continue to join our law enforcement partners, join with our community, and do our best to prevent fentanyl or other dangerous drugs from entering the United States. We recognize that this requires not only the whole of government approach, but it requires the whole of community approach at every level and by every person. I am confident that together with our law enforcement partners and with the assistance of our community, we can not only keep El Paso Juarez region safe, but the rest of the country as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Efrain Gonzalez. I'm the Director of Operations for El Paso Air Branch, Air and Marine Operations. El Paso Air Branch conducts aviation operations and works closely with our U.S. Border Patrol and Office of Field Operation partners in the combined and ongoing efforts to secure the border. El Paso Air Branch agents save human lives through specialized medical expertise and unique aviation capabilities that enable dynamic response to emergency situations, including those involving migrants who have been closely abandoned by smugglers and are left to die. El Paso Air Branch conducts aviation overwatch in coordination with ground units as CBP interdicts human and narcotic smuggling and pursues dangerous criminals trying to evade law enforcement. The El Paso Air Branch works with federal, state, and local law enforcement partners when they are serving high-risk warrants to arrest dangerous individuals with ties to criminal organizations. Our air crews are also often augmented by Border Patrol search, trauma, and rescue paramedics further enabling rapid medical response in remote areas that are difficult to access or traverse. Our agents stand side by side with our CBP counterparts and the Commissioner to combat the illicit activities of the transnational criminal organization. Thank you.
We have time for a few questions. We'll start with KDIA.
Thank you, Len.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Len.
Good afternoon, everyone. Commissioner Miller, you just mentioned two initiatives, two operations that will soon start or will start here in the southwest border to, of course, prevent more drug smuggling, human trafficking into the United States, but trying to localizing it here in the El Paso field office and the El Paso sector. What is the current trend, not only CBP, but Border Patrol is seeing? We know that migrant encounters have been going down, but what about drug smuggling? What is the trend that transnational criminal organizations are showing to your agency in these last couple of months in this 2024?
Thank you so much for the question. Number one, as you pointed out, our encounters have went down about 50% since the presidential proclamation. On the hard narcotics, as Hector alluded to, fentanyl intercepts are up 17%, and we've had a couple of larger fentanyl seizures just here in the last a couple weeks.
Yes, sir. Just a follow-up question. We're talking about going after the cartels' bosses through Plaza Spike. We're talking about fentanyl interdiction through Apollo X. What's gonna be done to prevent more migrants from dying on the desert, which is also again tied with the cartels? What are you doing on that front?
Thank you so much for the question. Number one, I just got out of a unified command group where we talked about the ruthless human smugglers and taking the fight to them and bringing them to justice. In other words, treating every death as a homicide, number one. Number two, we're going to continue to message, don't put your families in this danger. Don't believe the cartels. And as you stated, at the end of the day, we need to go after these transnational criminal organizations that are taking advantage of the most vulnerable people. We need to charge them in the deaths. We need to put them behind bars, and we're going to continue to do that. But we also have to message, and we're also going to continue to work with our office, the U.S. Border Patrol, with our foreign partners in Mexico through mirror patrols in those known areas of hotspots, so we can discourage them from even trying to cross the border.
Commissioner, we also seen an increase on stash houses here in the El Paso area. Do you have a comment on that?
Thank you again for that question. Number one, with the decrease in encounters, we have more officers and agents out doing their law enforcement mission, working with our state and local partners. So we're working through operations to identify these transnational criminal organizations where they might be housing migrants. We're working with our state and local partners, and we're going and bringing those folks to justice. But just as importantly, we're going to exploit that information to determine which transnational criminal organizations are smuggling these folks across the border, and then we're going to go after them through things like Plaza Spike and Apollo X.
Yeah, I had a quick message. People don't realize sometimes that they're taking fentanyl because it's mixed in with other drugs. What's your message to the El Paso community, and what can they do to help fight this?
Several initiatives, One Pill Kills, right, from DEA, but I think Scott just hit on what he's doing. If you want to speak more of that through initiatives like GEAR, where you're getting in to schools, you're talking to the local community, you're telling them about the pills, what they would look like. You need to go to an approved pharmacy if you're going to get a pill. You cannot take a pill in today's environment because one pill could kill. But if Scott would like to talk a little bit more about what he's doing locally in regards to that initiative, please.
Again, with that GEAR program, right, reaching out to the schools, talking to the students, but also this initiative for home, right, for parents to encourage their children to, hey, you know, you're going to see your friends or friends of friends or friends of friends of friends, right, that are taking some kind of pill that they don't know what it is, don't do it. Don't make it. Don't take it. That's our message. It's a significant problem on the internet as well, right? And we've been working with DEA on that piece as well, where there's a lot of prescription medications that are from companies that aren't pharmaceutical companies that are providing medications, and that's how a lot of this stuff is getting sold through the mail system, and it's become a threat that we're actually attacking as well through intelligence and coordinated efforts with our partner agencies.
Hi, thank you. I would like to ask, you mentioned that you're working with authorities in Mexico. I would like to know if by any chance do you have any information about people who are getting kidnapping in Mexico, especially migrants?
We work very closely with the government of Mexico to identify those that are responsible for the kidnapping and in those sorts of heinous crimes. And then we work to ensure that if we identify those individuals, we bring them to justice and share that information back with our partners in Mexico. So we're continually communicating through our local relationships, but our national relationships as well, to ensure that we're passing that sort of information back and forth across the border.
Hello, Norma Ponce from Milenio. I want to ask you again about this effort with the Mexican government. Can you tell us more details? I also want to know more about these people that were caught. You said there are 5 that were caught since October, I guess. Can you tell us more the efforts that you are doing with the Mexican government, especially with the Gobierno de Chihuahua? Any numbers you have? You said something about, I don't know how many pounds you said, but can you tell me numbers of how, if this has increased, like more information, please? Thank you.
So I'll go backwards first. The fentanyl seizures here in the El Paso area have increased 17% this fiscal year. And from fiscal year 22 to 23 across the southwest border mostly, we almost doubled our seizures. So the fentanyl interdictions have been going up. We work with Mexico at the federal level and at the local level. So at the local level, Scott and his team every single day are doing mirror patrols and sharing information back and forth about the TCOs and the illicit activity that's happening specifically at the border. At the national level, we work daily through our embassy on trends, tactics, techniques, procedures, but sharing that information back with them, whether it's through the embassy or whether it's through their equivalent of the Department of Justice, so that they can take action appropriately. But that action and those coordination and that collaboration is happening daily at all levels of the U.S. government.
Hi there, Commissioner. Jesus Baltazar with KTSM 9 News. Regarding the timing of expanding the operations into El Paso, Operation Spike and Apollo X, does that have to do with how you mentioned, anticipating that the tactics from TCOs will probably shift towards the east, or is there anything more regarding the timing of it?
So Apollo X is a little bit unique. We're going to assemble teams, multidisciplinary teams from our Office of Trade, our Office of Field Operations, the folks here at the ports of entry, our Office of Intelligence, and U.S. Border Patrol with Air and Marine, and we're going to go where the intelligence takes us, where the activity takes us. We're not going to announce when, where, or how, but those operations have started. They will continue to evolve and move based on what we uncover during the operation.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. We turn on TVs, we read in the news everywhere, and I'm a member of the media. And all these successes that you just described are presented in a very different way on a daily basis. We have been told that there's an invasion when you have registered 40% decrease in arrests, as an example. What can you do and what do you need? More technology, more information. How do you answer in this environment to those type of statements?
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, I'm a 31-year career official from U.S. Customs Service and Customs and Border Protection. So I'm going to focus on the mission every single day like I have for the last 31 years. When it comes to the resources that we need to continue to do our job, we've been very explicit. We need additional officers and agents. We need additional technology. We need to modernize our technology so that we can share with our state and local and federal partners. We need additional technology for the Office of Border Patrol in between the ports of entry so we can identify that illicit activity. We need additional funds for artificial intelligence and machine learning so that we can leverage those multi-energy portals that we see across the El Paso region that are being used to scan trucks. So we have a whole host of needs. We've been very explicit in those needs, and we will continue to advocate for the men and women of CBP because they deserve our support from headquarters.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. I got a question for you and for Agent Mancha. You've talked over the past couple of months of that need to modernize and renovate ports of entry to be quicker in detecting fentanyl and migrants. I just wanted to ask you, out of the ports in El Paso, which one needs more work being done, and how much money would that be?
Well, the port you're sitting at right now, as you all know, is going to be modernized through the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed. So the design standards are being put together today, and I believe GSA has put out for public comment some of the things that we're going to be doing. So this port's going to be modernized. We have started to leverage NII, non-intrusive technology, large scale, so we can scan more vehicles, more trucks. So we continue to modernize the ports here, and we've done a pretty good job of that the last year or so, but we also need to do what I was just talking about. We need to ensure that we're getting the right information into the hands of the officers who are doing the work. In other words, I need to be able to leverage new technology, emerging technology when it comes to artificial intelligence and machine learning, so I can quickly adjudicate images and that information, get it to a frontline officer so he can make an informed decision of what we're going to look at. So we're in the process of modernizing our ports across the southwest border with new technology, some ports themselves. Of course, we have more work to be done, and we need more funds to continue to modernize.